You're watching On the Scene Network. I'm Daria Roy. Nigel Barker was in Toronto for the launch of his new book, Models of Influence, showcasing 50 of the most influential models of all time. OTSN was there with the latest.
We're here at Indigo, Toronto for the launch of Nigel Barker's new book, Models of Influence. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind your book.
Well, Models of Influence, 50 women who reset the course of fashion. You know, if you know anything about me, you know that I've been involved with fashion and models for, the better part of 20 years. And in fact, really all my life. So my mother was a model. I happened to be a model back in the day, and of course with America's Next Top Model, the face, and just what I do for a living, I have met and worked with and been inspired by so many wonderful women, so many extraordinary people, from Twiggy to Paulina Vorozkova, Elle Macpherson, Naomi Campbell, Tyra Banks, the list goes on and on and on. And when I wrote a book like this, it wasn't just to celebrate them because they're successful.
Yeah.
It was to talk about how they were influential and how many women, certain models throughout history, have actually changed the way we think about beauty.
What do you want people to take away from this book?
I would hope that you will, learn certainly a lot about the women in the book. You'll read the stories about how they were the first. They were the pioneers. They were the trailblazers. They were the ones who perhaps pushed despite adversity and were the first model of color on a magazine in America or in a TV commercial, someone like Naomi Sims. And to hear how that happened, how that came to be, and how that changed the landscape of beauty, not just in America, but globally. For example, how about we start with an era like the 60s? That's a popular era, one that most of us are familiar with. It's not too far back. Now, the book starts from the 1940s and goes to sort of present time. So the swinging 60s is right there in the beginning. And there's a model, of course, by the name of Twiggy, who you might remember, you might have heard of. Of course, who sat next to me on America's Next Top Model. I got the privilege of spending time with her.
Yeah.
She's someone who really, his career was meteoric. You've never seen anyone really like her. In 2 years, that's all she modeled. She modeled just for 2 years time, and of course exploded across the entire world. It started in 1966 at a time when, if you think about what was the 60s about, rebellion, protest, being an individual, sexual liberation, women's liberation, and then of course Twiggy, the little girl, 16 years old, cuts her hair. That photograph was put into a hairdresser's salon in London in Carnaby Street, and the editor of the Daily Express sees this picture and goes, my goodness, that's the girl, she's the face, puts it in the newspaper the next day, writes the face of 1966, and the rest is history. She becomes a superstar. They take her to America, Diana Vreeland champions her, and she does 4 covers for American Vogue in 1 year. That's never happened before, and it's never happened again since.
Yeah.
And of course, Twiggy is a brand now that the world knows.
As well as being a celebrity photographer, I know you're also heavily involved in philanthropy. You also made a documentary about AIDS. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm very lucky to have a platform. I'm very lucky that people pay attention to me when I speak. And certainly as a photographer, there's perhaps nothing more rewarding than being able to take a photograph and move hearts and minds with a picture. Certainly as a fashion photographer, you take a picture hoping that people will buy the clothes that the models are wearing, and therefore you've created a picture that's hopefully both iconic but also sells. It is a business. But also at the end of the day, if I can take a picture of an issue, like for example what's going on with AIDS in Africa, and I can motivate the youth of today to understand it, advocate, participate, volunteer, then again I feel I've done something fantastic. So that's something that I think all photographers love to do.
That's it for this episode of On the Scene Network. I'm Daria Roy. Thanks for watching.
For more entertainment updates, subscribe on YouTube, as well as watch us on AOL and Huffington Post.